reasons why so many believers have limited thinking and they have ceilings above their heads, because with God, there is no ceiling, right? Not even the star is the limit, right? That with God, we are limitless. But one of the reasons why so many believers are limited, right? And they're limited in their thinking is because we do not know the word. We don't know the word. The word very clearly points out, it said, as a man thinketh, so is he. Right? And so one of the things that we're supposed to think about and meditate on is the word of God. And when we don't have that relationship, when we don't set aside that time to put that word down in our heart and meditate on it, we have limited thinking. We have limited thinking, right? Another thing that limits our capacity and makes us unable to perceive the new thing that God is doing is our short-term memory. Now you say, that what you mean? Our short-term memory, it limits us. What are you saying? Why would you say that? What I mean when I say that our short-term memory limits us is that really faith, when we faith is synonymous with the word trust, right? And all it really takes for us to really have that muscle of faith is to remember the things that God has already done in our lives, to know that God is still capable of doing even greater things. But what happens for many of us is not only do we not hide that word in our heart and meditate on the word of God, but as soon as something happens, we forget everything else that God has already done. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I'm guilty of it. Right? Who's willing? Give me a thumbs up if you can admit that you've been guilty of having short-term memory when it comes to God's exploits in your life. Right? One bad thing happens and everything that God has done goes completely out the window. Well, guess what, y'all? We've got to do a better job about sustaining our faith. And if we're going to grow in faith, right? If we're going to grow in faith, if we're going to inhabit the promises of God, then we got to make sure that we rehearse the things that God has done. There's nothing to increase your faith like remembering what God has already done. Right? Seriously, there's nothing so great that increases faith like remembering what God has already done in your life, right? Because there's so many people who have been there's so many of you even, right? You've been in situations before where you felt like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. I have no idea how the situation is going to end. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. And I don't care if it was 11:59. It wasn't even the last hour. It was down to the last minute. God came through and changed your situation in a way that it worked for your benefit. And even in the times when he allowed you to go through and it seemed like he didn't rescue you from whatever it was that you were begging and pleading for him to rescue you from, think about how even in those situations, things still worked out for your benefit.